Hi, good morning, everybody. It is 6:15 a.m. United States East Coast, coming to you from the great state of Maine. I am your host, Tom Kaczynski. Welcome to Sunrise in Pineland. I've been doing these shorts because I'm doing a major renovation project in preparation for the dark winter ahead. Something you should be doing too. If you're consuming material and you're not doing things at the same time, you probably need to get to it. So I highly recommend that. And we'll try, and maybe even tonight, I think there's a good chance we'll have one this afternoon or tonight, depending on how Dane is feeling. We'll try to do a show where we're going to talk about some food preps and some ideas you may not have heard of that will be really good for you. But today I wanted to do a quick news update, maybe 10-15 minutes I have here while I'm between tasks that I can share with you. So let me first just thank everyone who supports the program, the Venmo, CVC, PRV. There's still some Pineland bullets out there for those who are interested in that. Check out the new book, Surviving the Fall of America. I didn't write it because it wasn't coming. At this point, you should see it with all the problems with the gas and the inflation and the civil unrest and all the issues. And we'll do a lot of quick hits today, not getting into the full depth of things, but to give you a flavor of things you need to be keeping your eye on going forward. I also want to remind everyone to join our Telegram community, t.me/Atlantic Homeland. If you want to find me, I'm in there, most days checking things out, and we have a lot of talented and skilled people who keep their eyes on the ball, and this community makes this work. We are grateful for you, for your involvement, for your prayers, and your support, whatever level you can do. I know we're all struggling right now, and hey, if all you can do is show up, we still appreciate you. We're here to help one another, and working towards self-sufficiency is so important. One of the things I was telling Dana the other day was that honestly, I might start doing a feature, something like called penny prepping, because there's a lot of people say, well, if you have $10,000, here's your solution. I'm like, well, what do you do if you have $10? And this is one of the things, once you get far enough down the line in prepping, you've bought certain gear, you start to figure out certain tricks that save you money and time where you can do things self-sufficiently. So we're going to try to put some of those ideas up for you that are things that you can do if your budget is under $100. And I know $100 is a lot of money for a lot of people. $100 is a lot of money for me. I look at that gas price, we're over $5 here a gallon in Maine. It's a big problem. So let's talk about that for a second. So the predictions I've been listening to about where the gas price is going to go is it looks like a lot of people think that by the end of August, the banks, analysts, all those people think it's going to get to about $7 a gallon. There's a bottleneck that we don't have the refining capacity that the government's not even trying to solve. That's one big problem. Of course, they're blaming it on Putin and Ukraine, but the problem had started much earlier, and they are trying to get gas out of Iran and Venezuela and other places. But Iran, apparently, from what I'm hearing from multiple sources, is having a problem where not only are they having the usual agitation for Israel, but apparently starvation starting to become a problem over there. They're having problems with their food harvest and supply because of goods and where they're moving and not moving. So we have that. We have unrest in their neighbor of Pakistan. Sri Lanka's starving. India's not exporting anything. And the usual Middle East unrest. Plus Saudi Arabia thinks, pie didn't go pounds in because they made, Mohammed bin Salman seem like the worst man ever because of what they did to that journalist Khashoggi, or whatever his name was. So things are crappy over there. What a surprise. Ukraine is continuing to be pushed back by the Russians. It seems like they've almost finished the battle for Donbass. And as the Russian ambassador said, Lavrov, well, if you start giving Ukraine weapons that can reach 500 kilometers, then we're going to have to push 500 kilometers into Ukraine. So this long, slow, wandering war continues, even though you see a major shift in the media in the last week where they are basically trying to say, well, let's have peace, let's get out of this, because they know it isn't going very well, and that's something you'll have to keep a very, very close eye on. I heard one piece of news I thought was very interesting on a broadcast Southern Prepper did, which he was saying that he had supposedly an anonymous electrical line worker say they're putting neighborhood shutoff switches, my words, not his, but the ability to shut off a certain element of the grid in a certain area rather than setting off the whole thing as a recurring feature. Now, I don't know what state this was in, but it's been a big problem. He also had another person saying that hospitals are now actively rationing things like heparins, like IV, heparin being a blood thinner, and they've been talking online about sudden, adult death syndrome. You can make your own judgments what you think that is. Some people think prion disease is coming as a result of some of the things that people chose as medical interventions. And I find the interesting thing is, as much as they're talking about needing employees and needing people to work, no one's ever saying, hey, let's bring in the people who haven't been jabbed. I know military people right now who would be happy to serve the country if we're in danger, but you know what? They're still being bounced out. You know what else is being bounced out? Your gun rights. So I think it was, about a dozen Republicans joined with the Democrats to pass a law last night limiting, passed in the House, it didn't pass the Senate yet, to pass a law limiting the magazine capacity, raising the age on AR-15s and other semi-automatic weapons to 21 years of age. And this follows the gun control push in Canada, that we saw the unilateral banning of handguns that they're trying to push to the parliament, that this happened in Chile, and this is happening throughout the Americas and worldwide, but specifically throughout the Americas. And actually, I'll say there's a funny book. The guy who wrote the Let's Go Brandon children's book actually just made one about Trudeau taking the weapons that's #1 in Canada. You'll probably go find it if you look for it. Looks like it'll be funny. He had to put a lot of disclaimers on that book, and yeah, I can understand why. But the reason I mention that is there's been an interesting thing happening in the background. The Organization of American States was scheduled to meet, which is basically a collection of all the states in North and South America. They were going to meet in Los Angeles, but it ended up being that because the U.S. didn't want to invite Cuba, Venezuela, and one other state, I forget if it was Honduras or Bolivia, one of them, anyway, that a number of states like Mexico, Argentina, and some other ones are not going to attend this conference, which makes it kind of a bust. It's a couple kind of flunkies hanging around the U.S. But one of the things that is being pushed with increasing speed that you got to keep an eye on is this idea of the American superstate, which literally would go, theoretically, from what they're talking about, from Tierra del Fuego in Argentina y Chile, Ushuaia and Puerto Arenas, all the way up to whatever the first northernmost place we can think of. Let's see, what it'd be, like Nome, Alaska or something. Another place up there on the far north of the Arctic Ocean there. So literally, these talks are ongoing, and the thing that makes it impossible right now is the strength of the American dollar. So here's where you got to watch for. As they take away the guns, as you see the American dollar weakened, and you see the efforts to build regional entities, same way the EU and NATO are becoming coterminous, the same way that you have China doing the Shanghai Cooperative Organization, the same way you have Russia using the Collective Security Treaty Organization. It looks a heck of a lot like the world is forming into coherent blocks, which is something that would be seen as a precursor to putting in a single world order. And remember, we just had the lovely little events of Davos and Bilderberg, the World Economic Forum, and all these people are saying, we need to move forward with a green economy. We need to work against disinformation. Another point on that. So documents leaked by Missouri Senator Josh Hawley demonstrated that, in fact, the Disinformation Board, remember Nina Jankowicz, she went away real fast, but they probably didn't forget the idea. They'll probably just rebrand it. The job that they said, well, we're just looking for foreign disinformation. Turns out they lied. What a surprise. That, in fact, they were working to build an alliance with Twitter to call out people who called out election security and for people who questioned the medical narrative. So, basically, what are they doing? They're punishing the truth tellers. Not a surprise to anyone who listens to this channel, but this is what's moving forward, and this is what the government's identified as a key threat. You know what's being memory hold pretty hard? The fact that you're not hearing a whole lot about the fact that literally the FBI picked up someone who was, who was planning to assassinate Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Now, look, I'm not a big Kavanaugh fan either, but the point of it is that, if this was someone who was trying to assassinate, let's say, Justice Jackson, you would be hearing news every single day, every single moment. But what happens? They want to get rid of a right-wing person? Oh, well, Merrick Garland said we can't allow that, and it went away. If you haven't heard anything about it, you're not the only one. And this is what's being permitted. We are reaching the points, like Tim Cass said the other day, where a whole bunch of people are basically being encouraged to think that this is a time where assassination of people who run against the state is supported. And by the way, that's basic Maoist philosophy. If you went ahead and you studied Mao's Cultural Revolution, what Mao actually did, because he had been sort of sidelined by other people in the party, is he went right to the kids and said, they've stolen your revolution, you need to start killing all the people who were working against you. And it got to the point where it's so bad, I'm not even making this up, where they'd get together and they would eat some of the people. This is what happened in China. This is what communists do. These are not good people, they're evil people. But this is literally where it went, how bad it got, and something you need to be aware of that is a real possibility that you might face in the future. I mean, it's something you should be frightened about. It's a real problem, and it's something that we need to be aware of, that, the excesses of political violence are going to spill over because people are desperate. A lot of places are anticipating major layoffs. Purchasing is down. Consumer confidence is in the tank. Oil prices continue to rise. And I think the only thing that's going to stop the gas price from continuing to rise is at some point people are going to make the decision, which is a sound decision. Hey, I'm not going on vacation this year. I'm going to stock up some extra food, some extra water, maybe some supplies I need to survive for the summer, for the winter. And I highly recommend that decision, even if you think you have assets and resources. Even if you have all the money in the world, a point may come where that money itself proves worthless. And having things on hand that you can use to survive is going to be crucial to your own survivability. So these are the things that I am seeing in a very quick presentation this morning that have me most concerned. And I will say that as a projection, I think that the U.S. will somehow trundle on through the summer because people will practice that uniquely American form of cognitive dissonance where we'll say, you know what, I just want to have a nice summer. It's been so bad during COVID. Just leave me alone. And I think businesses are going to try to eke their way through the quarter to finish out their sales. But I think sometime into July, August, September, there's going to be a big problem. Now, one other thing I want to mention, because a lot of people always ask this in the channel, houses and moving. Houses are becoming eminently unaffordable if you are stuck in a rental situation. And if you're stuck in one, it's going to be hard to get out. Maybe your one hope is to get a camper and a piece of land somewhere, to be honest with you, if you can manage that much, just because you're going to have a very hard time going forward finding a place that you can rent, and that's a hard spot to be in. I understand people are in that spot, but I would say if you're going to make your move, now's the time you really need to be thinking about it, because I do not think that mobility will be as easy in the future. If civil unrest begins happening, okay, there's going to be disruptions in supply lines where the cost of things are going to become very strange in different areas, and you may see lesser jurisdictions, which is to say state, county, local governments, take actions for security if the federal government continues to fail, or if the federal government, by the other hand, continues its overreach. You know, it's interesting that in the moment when people are suffering economically most, what's our government most concerned with? Making sure that you can, continue to fight to have abortion, to murder babies, and at the same time to take away the weapons away from you. And why is that? Why are they working for our impoverishment? Why is their solution to, gas to say go buy a $55,000 Tesla? Well, the answer is because they want you in this position. They want you living in a neo-feudal state. I tell you what, if you guys want a deep dive, I've been listening to John Coleman's, there's an audiobook online you can find it, just look for it. It's called Tavistock Institute. If you have to try to buy this book, it costs $1,000. Can't find it. I mean, I've looked, and I'm pretty good at looking for books, as you all know. It's amazing because you go back to before World War I, and you go back to Wellington House, which was the predecessor of Tavistock, and to the psychological manipulation of the American people that's been committed over and over again, whereby we've given away our power, we've given away to these caricatures of our enemies, whether it be the Boche, or the evil Nazis that are killing every single person, or whether it be, Vlad the Impaler. The thing about it is, yeah, there's atrocities in war. I'm not sugarcoating them, but the propaganda we make of pantomime villains has been used. I mean, there's something called the Bryce Commission, which was in 1915, which basically made a story that said, soldiers of Kaiser, which was the leader of Germany, Wilhelm I, it would go around, and what they would do is they would cut women's breasts off. They were amputating kids' hands, and there was no evidence. They just made it up. And they put it in America, and since it was British, they trusted it, because for some reason, we trust that accent. I mean, I think it's been something that's been inculcated. And so we fought with Britain against Germany, basically to get the Tsar removed, because the people who were in charge of the banks hated the Christians. And we go for this trick and this trap over and over again. So, one of the things I got to say to you is, do not trust your leadership. Do not trust the institutions. Do not trust the Department of Justice. The FBI has become such a blatantly partisan, political organization. And look, I know guys who listen to this program who are in some of these agencies, and I'm going to say, if you have integrity, you got to either take that back or leave. I don't know what you're going to do, but the thing about it is the selective law enforcement is absolutely crazy, and it's getting worse all the time. And you can see with this January 6th show trial, they literally, what was it Tucker was saying, they're literally hiring a producer here. We've got Caesar Flickerman lined up for the Hunger Games on stage 2. This is literally what they're doing, and it's utterly insane, because you have people who are being treated as absolute felons for just exercising political protest. And they know it's going to get worse, and they want it to get worse. They want every excuse to take power from you, and you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So what do? You get away from it. You find your way to get to a small town, live a quiet life, make some friends, build into the Pinelander network. That's one of the things we're trying to do here, get people connected. You know, when you're dealing with these sorts of problems, when you're dealing with, let's be honest with you, when you're dealing with a resistance, what you're going to have is small cells that are disconnected of people who individually operate with a great amount of autonomy, that we're going to be decentralized, and, you know, people will group according to what they have in common and what they want to do together. And that is the best advice I can give you about how we're going to face some of these things. But right now, what you need to be doing is accumulating supplies, accumulate basic infrastructure you don't have. Think of your basic survivability needs, right? You're thinking shelter, you're thinking eating, you're thinking energy, you're thinking food, water, medicine, tools, protection, what you need to supplement, improve those. Assume nothing more than that. Assume in your thinking that if you were trapped in your house and there was nowhere else you could go safely, what do you have on hand? Assume then a little wider. What's around your house you can use safely and get to, or what you need to be able to do that safely? Look where your assets are, and I'm telling you, if you feel so unsafe where you live, now is the time to get moving, because I think after the summer, you might not be able to. And I know that sounds drastic, but you know what? It won't take much for things to get out of control. Right now, people are afraid, and some people are living in a delusion, and some people are just waiting and watching, and a few others are just hiding. But at some point, the desperation of people who are poor, who won't be able to feed themselves, who won't be able to meet their bills, who will be evicted, the chaos that starts in the cities, and it will probably start there, just like it does most summers, will probably eventually expand to something far greater. And wherever the government artificially induces that, you know, through selective media coverage of certain things, you know, it's actually, I guess I'm glad they're talking about black on black crime, but it's, you know, one of the things that they're doing is, I think that at this point it's starting to be covered for the one reason of saying, we need to take away guns, we need to take away guns. Look, taking away guns doesn't take away violence. It takes away the ability of people to offer defense against it. And the biggest threat of violence against the people has become pretty obvious in this age. It's governments fighting wars against one another, drafting us to fight them, and standing against the people who stand against what will be unjust wars that are going to be perpetrated in the days ahead. And as third world countries begin to collapse, mass migrations put forward, and we see assets taken away from the people who need them, what I think you're going to see one more time is you're going to see that the push will be to give money to those who came, just like with the Ukrainians. We're going to be impoverished, helping everyone except our own people, whatever country you live in, by the way. So if you live in the West, begin preparing for yourself. Don't invest overly time in your country. Don't believe those work harder, work 90 hours a week so that you can support the corporate welfare state. Because the corporations are going to get bailed out either way. The people who own them are the people who own the rest of us. Instead, you be smart. Look out for your own and make some alliances. And if you're all alone, man, find friends, find family, find someone to hook up with, and make those trades now. All right. That's the news. That's the story. I'll be back hopefully with some more encouraging news later. Go see the wife this morning. And then I got a lot of work to do. So if I come on, it'll probably be in late morning, early afternoon. All right, God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for supporting Pineland. Go get the book, Surviving the Fall of America. It will help you. It's actually worth it. I did take my time because I do care about you guys. You know that. And thank you for everyone who supports the program, the Venmo, CVC, PRV, P.O. Box 343, Eagle Lake, Maine, 04739. God bless and have a wonderful rest of your day.